David Bruce, who is an independent researcher on violence, policing and public security, joins me now live to talk a bit about this. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Bruce. Thanks indeed for your time. So I want to start here. Part of that statement from the presidency indicating that the termination of Khetla Sithole's employment had basically been in the best interest of the country. In your view, that statement indicating so, do you agree that it is in the best interest of the country?
Certainly, I agree with that. I think just particularly following the unrest in July, there have been questions raised about the National Commissioner and the role that he performed. And certainly, at the very least, on the issue of a lack of public confidence in the National Commissioner. I think, the question of exactly what he did or didn't do and so on is still, to some degree unclear, but just there seems to be a prevailing sense that, we need to make changes at that level.
Yeah. The Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster held a media briefing earlier today, basically conceding that the integrity of the sector needs to be restored. Are we likely to see more heads roll? Because a number of departments or ministries, if I can, were called into question in terms of what they did and what they did not do, in particular, if we look at what happened in July.
Well, I must, just acknowledge that I can't really answer that question. My specialization is on the policing sector, and it seems that the primary target, the principal change that is being brought about at this point is a change at the level of the National Commissioner of Police.
Yeah.
People are asking about whether the Minister of Police is also likely to be replaced, but simply I can't provide you with a direct answer to that question.
Should he be replaced? What are your thoughts on that? Should he be replaced? Because there seemed to have been a breakdown in relationship between himself and the now soon-to-be ex-National Police Commissioner. Should the Police Minister also go?
Well, you see, my feeling is that in terms of what we've been doing in terms of governing the police over the last 20 years, we haven't been providing effective leadership and governance. And so that extends beyond being a question about one person. It's a question about being able to put in place a system where we're providing effective leadership to the police, which goes beyond, simply what the minister says or doesn't say, but involves providing coherent policies for how to strengthen policing. And, one of my concerns, I must just say, is just that, our current minister, I see him as having certain strengths, in fact, but one of them is just that, he doesn't really address the policy issues that we need to address in order to, have overall improvement in our policing system.
Yeah. And I mean, quite critical, what criteria should then be used in the selection of the next National Police Commissioner? Many referring to it, and a number of conversations or interviews I had over this past weekend, talking about a poison chalice when you talk about the office of the National Police Commissioner. What criteria and selection should be used in this to select the next National Police Commissioner so that you don't have such a critical institution being called into question, where South Africans believe when there's a problem at the top, they simply do not feel safe?
Right. Well, okay. Firstly, I would say that it's important what happens over the next month, because we need to know who's going to step into the breach when Commissioner Sithole stands down. But preferably, we need to have a thorough selection process for his replacement. And so I understand from one of the media reports today that there are a number of senior officers in the SABC who have been asked to provide their, motivation as to whether they should replace Sithole. But I would like to hope that would be in an acting role, and that the president will give himself a bit more time to appoint a proper selection panel and have a much more thorough process in order to select Commissioner Sitholi's permanent replacement.
Yeah. The President also announcing in the State of the Nation address the hiring, I think it's of about 12,000 police officials to address some of the shortcomings. Recent testimony, of course, also related to the July violence, point to the South African Police Service being overwhelmed and outnumbered in that particular incident. Does this move of hiring more police officers address the issue of strengthening the South African Police Service?
Well, on the one level, I think there is a valid concern about, bolstering the ranks of the SAPS. As you've mentioned, the expert panel itself said that the police had insufficient capacity to stop the violence. On the other hand, one of the things that I was concerned about when President Ramaphosa made that announcement was that we would be repeating some of the mistakes that we've made in the past, which is to bring large numbers of police into the SAPS very quickly without giving adequate attention to the kind of quality considerations that need to be applied during selection, during the training process, and so on. But subsequent to President Ramaphosa, subsequent to the SONA announcement, which referred to a figure of 12,000, from subsequent announcements that have been made, it seems that that number is going to be brought in more gradually.
Yeah.
So it seems that there is a recruitment process that was initiated last year, in terms of which 7,000 members are going to be brought into the SAPS.
Yeah.
Later in the year, another recruitment process will be initiated, and the second batch within that group, possibly 5,000 people, will essentially be brought in next year. So at least, it seems possible that, there might be some recognition that it would be a mistake to try and do all of this too quickly.
David Bruce, independent researcher on violence, policing and public security. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme.